podcasting outside? The weather was too nice not to. And welcome to episode 35 of the Knitted by Whitney podcast. Yes, I am outside, and if you've been with me for a while, you'll know that this is a little bit of an experiment because the last time I tried to film outside was either in my first or second year of podcasting. A truck just went by. Hopefully you didn't hear that. Because in my very first or second year of podcasting, I tried to do a podcast outside. I didn't have a mic then. I was just using the mic on my phone, and the noise in that video was atrocious, and I got really distracted by the noise as well. And if you go back and watch that video, it's my very first souffle that I knit, my navy one, and I'm just reacting to all of the sounds that I hear, all the road noise. Seriously. And honestly, looking back, it's funny, but also I feel like I got so distracted and wasn't able to talk about my project very well because I was so distracted by all the noise. But this time around, I have a lapel mic, and I'm hopeful that that will eradicate most of the background noise and you'll just hear me. I did a little test video and it seemed to work okay, but it also kind of picked up a little of the jingling of my necklace. So hopefully that won't be too present this time. I think my outfit looks really nice with the necklace, so I don't really want to take it off. But I am here with a new podcast episode, and we are in full summer. Here in Nova Scotia, we're actually in a drought, and it's actually very concerning how dry it is here. We haven't seen rain for almost a month, and our next chance of rain is this Thursday, and it's only going to be like maybe 3 millimeters, and it's only like a 30% chance, so we're very dry. But it's also really beautiful and bright and sunny out today, and I knew I wanted to record a podcast today, but I also wanted to be outside, so I thought, why don't I combine the two and do a podcast episode outside? I am under a gazebo because based on my skin color, you know that I'm a shade girl, but I am getting lots of bright light, and it looks really beautiful in my screen that I use to see what I'm filming, so hopefully it looks good for you as well. In today's episode, I have 2 finished objects to share with you, 3 whips, 1 stash spotlight yarn, possibly 2, and 3 book reviews, because I have been doing a lot of reading. Let's get into this, shall we? Starting off with my finished objects, the first one I don't have with me because it was the rainbow baby blanket that I knit for friends of ours. I knit the Good Morning blanket by Pearl Soho, and I loved the experience. It definitely was a very potato chippy pattern because it's knit in a modular fashion where you start off with a rectangle of white, pick up along the side and do 4 stripes of one color, leave those stitches on hold, go back, pick up on the other side of the white rectangle as well as along the sides of those first stripes that you did, and you do 4 stripes in the other direction, and you keep going until you have a blanket the size that you would like it to be. So the reason that I don't have it with me is because I have gifted it to our friends who are expecting their first baby, and I have a beautiful photo that I will share here of the blanket. I've got a couple photos. One of them will have been the background image for the thumbnail of this video, and I also took a reel yesterday or the day before. So I'll also insert that as well. So as I'm talking, hopefully there'll be some stuff on the side here. Maybe I should shift over a bit just in case. But we also have a lot of four-wheelers and dirt bikes on our road. So that one was particularly loud. I hope you didn't hear that one. And I'm going to try not to get distracted by all of these. But anyway, I absolutely love this project and the parents absolutely loved it. I got tears out of both of them, and that of course got tears out of me because I cry at everything because I'm like that. But it was so wonderful to give it to them and to see their reactions. I think this turned out absolutely incredibly. It is knit using Hobie Friends 8/8 cotton, and I swear that is one of the softest cotton yarns that I have ever felt. And it was perfect for a baby blanket because it's machine washable. I actually blocked it by throwing it into the wash and running it on a wash cycle. And then I laid it flat to dry just because I really wanted to get the edges nice and crisp because I modified the pattern a bit. I, first of all, made it a little smaller so that it'd be more of a baby blanket size rather than like a throw size. But I also added an I-cord trim onto it using my cordsmith tool. It's a little finicky to get started, and I kind of just like suffered through that and it was fine. But I think if I was to do it again, I would start off by doing the I-cord with my needles and maybe do an inch of I-cord and then start using the cordsmith tool, just because I was doing an applied I-cord. So I had already picked up my stitches all the way around and I was doing the I-cord while slipping one stitch from that round. And it just was a little finicky to start. It was quite tight because the cotton doesn't have any stretch to it. So I kind of struggled a bit more than I did the last time I used my cordsmith tool. So now I know for myself that if I'm going to use it for cotton yarns in the future, I'm going to start off by knitting the I-cord with my needles first and then use the cordsmith tool. But it turned out beautifully. It really made the blanket look particularly sharp and very professional. And I like that it just wrapped it all up in a bow, if you will. I had a hard time deciding what color to use, and I looked at all the extra colors that came with the yarn that I bought because I had bought all of these in color packs, and one of the color packs had like this silvery blue color. I ended up using that for the trim around the edge just because it kind of was a color that wasn't already in the blanket. I was pretty sure that I didn't want to use a color already in the blanket unless I chose white for the trim all the way around. But I thought the silver looked nicer because it kind of made me think of like a rainbow, like the cloud that comes before a rainbow or that accompanies a rainbow. And I felt that it looked really, really nice with all the colors in the blanket. So that's what I ended up going with. And I absolutely love that project. It's so beautiful and was a little hard to give away, but I also know that our friends are so happy with it and their baby is going to love it, I hope. But that is my first finished object. My second finished object is not knitting, it's sewing. I am bringing in the odd finished object in sewing if I have made anything recently, and something about summer makes me want to sew, and I recently finished a new skirt. This is a pattern based on a tutorial by Bethany Lynn Makes. I'm not going to get it all in the photo, in like the video, because it is a midi length skirt. I actually planned it off of this skirt that I'm currently wearing, so I love the length of this skirt. So I'll include some photos and or videos here. But this is made with a rayon poplin fabric, which is new to me. I've never used that before, but it's extremely drapey and flowy and thin and light and breezy. It's just perfect for summer. And I'm really proud of this project because I made myself take my time with this project. And I made sure that I did all the steps as required. I didn't skip anything. I didn't rush through anything. And I have the most beautiful finished garment because of that. Of course, this skirt also has pockets, which I'll put my hand in here. Although I only made my pockets about the size of my hand. I wish I'd made them a bit bigger. But something that I'm finding with gathered skirts is I kind of wish I had done patch pockets instead, just because once you're wearing it and it's all gathered around your waist, I find it a little hard to find the pocket with my hand. So it's kind of tricky to like get your hand into, put something in your pocket or take it out. So I think the next time I do a gathered skirt, I will do patch pockets on the front, and I think I will like that a bit better for daily use. This is the same tutorial that I followed for my pink two-tiered linen skirt that I made for Me Made May. And I do like that skirt, but I find that the seam of the second tier goes right across my knees. So I'm very aware of the feeling of that. I think what I need to do is I just need to put like some bias binding or something around the like sewn edges so that it's not so scratchy on my knees. I just haven't gotten around to doing that. I'm also not a huge fan of the fact that I had to do a box pleat in the back of that skirt in order to make it fit, because when I finished it, it was too big. But doing this one and being more careful with it, I realized why that skirt ended up too big, even though the elastic felt fine when I used it. The reason it got too big is because when I had stretched out the fabric to sew down the lines that you need to do on the waist elastic to keep it in place, I had stretched it too far. So when I did that one, I stretched it until the fabric laid flat and there were no like folds or puckers. And I didn't do that with this one. I only stretched it a little bit. And when I sewed it down, of course, there's pleats, there's puckers, that type of thing. But it's a gathered waist skirt. It's kind of meant to look that way. And this one fits me perfectly. So I know now that that's the mistake that I made with the pink one, and I know it's because I was rushing. So I'm thinking that I might want to go back and fix that at some point, but I know it's going to be quite the endeavor to do that. And I don't feel like I want to tackle that right now. I do think I want to do a couple of things in 2025 that will fix up a couple of projects that I've made, either knitting or sewing, and make them fit nicer or be the way that I want them to be. So I'm already kind of thinking ahead of my theme for 2026, and I think it's going to be redo. But for now, I have redone this pattern with a new fabric and with taking my time, being a little slower, and I'm so happy with the results. Now let's get into some whips, starting with the one that I'm focusing on the most since I finished the baby blanket, and that is my Firth Sweater. Now this is a test knit for Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea, and I have finished most of the body. I'm onto the ribbing at the bottom. I've knit maybe half an inch of ribbing. And I've also done my folded collar. So let me put this on so you can see what it looks like. This might be a point where I regret filming a podcast outside in like 27-degree weather because I now have to wear a woolen mohair sweater in this heat. I'll try and not take too long while talking about this one. But this is, like I said, my Firth Sweater. It is a test knit. I need to finish this by the beginning of September, and I'm going a little slower than I would like just because I have less than a month left, and I really wish I had at least one sleeve done or at least half a sleeve at this point. But I had to prioritize the baby blanket because that was for the shower on the 10th of August. So now that that's done, I can go back to focusing on this. And as of time of recording, I'm actually doing a little series over on Instagram. I might also post it in YouTube Shorts of doing 1 week, one whip, where I focus on this whip exclusively for a week and see how much work I can get done on it. So I've already started recording a little bit of that. I did day one today, which is Monday, August 11th, but you probably won't see this until this Friday, which I think is the 15th, if I get my dates right. But this is my Firth Sweater so far. I'm incredibly happy with the fit of this sweater. My favorite thing about it is this panel of 2x2 ribbing underneath the arm, which starts off on the shoulders with this beautiful shoulder detail. And I have done bust shaping for this sweater, and it fits so perfectly. I did the F-cup bust shaping, which is the largest bust shaping, and it's so clear when I sit or stand sideways. I hope this is viewable, but it just fits my body so nicely. I'm really, really happy with it. And I just did the collar this past weekend, and that fits so nicely. I haven't checked yet whether I have the number of stitches that I was supposed to cast on for the neckline. I know a couple of people mentioned in the tester chat that they struggled to get the number. I kind of just followed the pickup rate that Rebecca put in the pattern, and I'm hopeful that that's at least close to the amount. But the color fits really comfortably, so this is what I'm going to stick with. Rebecca's been really laid back when it comes to us needing to make small changes like that. So a lot of us have needed to add length to the body, myself included. So the body of the sweater only has one length written in the pattern, but then there's also the added caveat, or until you are happy with the length, which I understand why she did that, but at the same time, I do kind of wish there were a couple length options, just because not everybody likes the same length, and that also affects yardage when you need to add more length. So I'm looking at my yarn. I'm a teensy bit nervous. I have one full ball left of the mohair and the single. Oh, by the way, I'm using Townhouse yarns. They're Fade Street 4-ply, which is a single ply fingering weight yarn, but over in the UK they call fingering weight 4-ply. And they're Abbey lace, or I think it's Abbey lace, and that's their mohair base. So I'm holding those together. And I have one full ball of each of those left, and I have split those in two so that I have a half a ball each that I'm going to use to pick up each sleeve. I wanted to divide it in half so that I would have the best chance of getting as much of the sleeve done as possible with one skein, and then have to do maybe have to do a join for the bottom ribbing on the cuffs. But I wanted to have that join on each of the sleeves so that they were symmetrical, because I didn't want to use the ball, the single ball that I have left of each of those, and do one whole sleeve and then have a join maybe like up here on the second one. I wanted to have the join at the same point because I like things to be symmetrical. So that's what I have done with my last full ball, and I still have maybe half a ball left of my second ball of each of those two colors, or two yarns rather. So yardage is looking a little low, but not really scary. I do have more than the yardage was mentioned in the pattern when I signed up for the test knit. So I do have a comfortable bit of extra yarn, but now that I've added those extra 2 inches to the body before doing the ribbing, I think I'm going to be a little closer than I would like to be, but I think I'm still good. I'm pretty sure that I can get away with just doing the 3 inches of ribbing. I don't think I need to do more than that, because I think I've done enough with adding those 2 inches to the body before doing the ribbing to make it work. I did make a little boo-boo with this pattern, but I'm going with it. And that's that I did not use a needle 2 sizes smaller for my ribbing. I only went down 1 needle size. So for the body, I'm still trying to get my head around the millimeter sizes of needles. So body of the sweater, using 4 millimeter needles, US 6s. I thought I was using 4.5s, which are US 7s. So when I picked up the collar, I used a 3.75 needle, which is a US 5. I should have been using a 3.5 millimeter needle, which is a US 4, because for me personally, I find going down 2 sizes, so, oh, there's a hummingbird, it just came right close to me. We have hummingbird feeders in our backyard, and we have a variation of hummingbirds that come here, and they're so pretty. That one came really close, actually. So anyway, yeah, I usually go down 2 sizes when I do ribbing compared to the body of a sweater. But this time I accidentally only went down 1 size. But I decided to roll with it, because when I went to do my ribbing at the bottom, I actually forgot to change my needle size entirely. So then I had to go back a couple rows. Luckily it was only 2 or 3 rows. And then I started again. And I did use the 3.75, the US 5s, because I wanted to match what I did on the neckline. And honestly, considering that There's been ribbing going down the side of this sweater the whole time. I don't think the bottom ribbing needs to be significantly tighter like it normally would need to, because then I think it would look a little funky, especially, when you lay the sweater down flat, you'll see that like the body comes out like this and the bottom ribbing goes in like this until you block it, that is. And I just thought, you know what, I'm okay with just going down that one size. I think it'll look fine. So that's what my little boo-boo was, and I'm actually okay with that. And I'm starting to get less okay with wearing a woolen mohair sweater, so I'm going to take this off and we'll talk about one of my other whips. Before I put this away though, I do also just want to point out that I absolutely love this looking like a vest. And I'm actually thinking I want to use some yarn that I have in stash to make this as a vest. So that might be a project that you see from me in the future. But I love how snuggly and warm this sweater is so far. And I really love the gauge of the fabric. It's got nice drape to it because it's not too tight, but it's also not too loose that you can like see through it, kind of like a lento. So I feel that this would make a really nice layering piece for the fall or the winter. And I definitely have some more combos of fingering and mohair in my stash that I would love to use together. Now, I almost always have a little hat on the go, and that's what my next whip is. I'm making another classic ribbed hat, I think it's called, by Pearl Soho. This is one that I knit for myself back in the winter time. My husband loved the one that I made for myself, and he really had a particular color in mind that he wanted for one for himself. One of the YouTube channels that he watches, one of the guys on that channel often wears a beanie that under their studio lights, it looks like an orangey color. But when I went to look at the store-bought one to get an idea of what I needed to recreate, the color is actually a mustard yellow, but whatever color studio lights they use, it comes up like this really burnt orange color. And he said he wanted the burnt orange color. So this yarn is Hobie Unicorn Solids, and I think the color is Caramel. I'm not 100% sure, but if I got that wrong, I'll put it on the screen. But this is just a classic ribbed hat. I am holding the yarn double, and I had a few stops and starts with this project. I had originally cast on the same number of stitches that I did for myself on small needles, and it just felt very stiff. I knew I wanted to use this yarn double because the Hobie Unicorn Solid on its own, like single stranded, is too thin for what I wanted to work with. The yarn that I used for mine was a sport weight, so it was thicker than that. And I thought I wanted to go a little faster and be a little cozier for my husband, so I decided to hold them double, which is a DK. I do find this pattern a little strange because it is meant for DK weight yarn, but knit on the needle sizes recommended by the pattern. That's an incredibly stiff gauge, and this is supposed to be a slouchy beanie, so you kind of play around with it and see what works for your combo of yarn and needle size. But I decided to do my fingering weight held double, so it's DK weight, on 4.5mm needles, US size 7. So it is quite a bit bigger, and I ended up having to go back and cast on fewer stitches because knitting it with the number of cast on stitches that I had originally used for myself was far too many. I had taken it off the needles, put it on just a piece of yarn, and stretching it out, it was far too big. But I'm going to do the same thing that I did with mine, and I'm going to make it extra long so that I can double fold the brim, which is what my husband really wants because that's what he likes about mine, because it makes mine ultra cozy. So that is another whip that I have going on right now. My last whip that I have to share with you is a little bit of a sad story because it's significantly smaller than when you last saw it in the podcast. And that's because the original concept has been frogged and I have started over with something different. This was my Tolsta tank by Rebecca Clove Crayabea, which I did all of the decreases for the back panel and realized I had been doing the decreases for the wrong size. I had originally cast on size 5 when I started this, when I took it on our honeymoon to Portugal last year. And when I got home, I don't think I wrote down what size I was doing, and I kind of forgot about it. I don't think I even wrote down whether I was doing the DK or the fingering size. I learned when I picked it back up that I was doing the DK weight size, but I didn't properly write down what size I was doing, but I knew that in other Rebecca Clow patterns that I had done, I had chosen size 6. So I did all of the decreases for size 6, and then I laid it down and I looked at it and I thought, that looks weird. And I contacted my friend Robin, who she's in my local knitting group, and she knit 2 of the Tolsta tanks this year, and she knit 1 last year because we were doing a little like unofficial knit along with our work knitting group. And I said, Robin, what's going on? I don't know what's wrong here. And I ended up like spamming her with all these messages as I was figuring it out. And I was sending these to her at like 10 or 10:30 at night. She was already asleep. So like the next morning she woke up and she messaged me. She's like, I'm so sorry I missed your chaos. Because I had been like just messaging her over and over and over again. And I realized that I had done the decreases for the wrong size. Now I could have gone back and just ripped out the panel and done the decreases for the back panel with size 5. But then I looked at the measurements again and I tried it on and I thought, I'm not comfortable in a size 5. I would be more comfortable in a size 6. So I made the decision that night, probably a chaotic decision, to frog the whole thing. And I ended up casting on the Tolsta tee, which doesn't look like much right now. This is it. I really have only done the ribbed neckline and the short rows. Now, I want to work on this. I really want to work on this. But I'm not letting myself work on this until I finish my Firth Sweater test knit, because that needs to get done by early September. This I can do whenever I want. And the reason that I chose the Tolsta tee rather than just doing the tank again is that I think I've shown it in a previous podcast. I was gifted some yarn by Catherine of Création Miss Couture Yarns, one of my affiliate codes, if you check my description box below. And she gifted me a blue. I chose this color, and I chose it because I absolutely loved it. And when it arrived, I realized it's the same color as this yarn. And I thought I asked for that color and the amount that I asked for from her to make the 03 ribbed cami, which is one of my favorite patterns that I've ever made. And I wear my pink one to death. And I really wanted a blue one. And I thought, there's no way that I am going to want 2 blue tank tops in the exact same shade of blue, even if they're different yarns, even if they're different styles. So I decided that I would cast on the Tolsta tee instead, because I definitely have enough yarn to do the tee. And I want another crack at it because I'm not happy with my version that I made that is pink with gray stripes, with some yarn gifted to me from my friend Madison of Fleurange Apparel. And I really love that. I love the yarn. I definitely want to do something with it. I was talking with Madison about it last night, actually, and I've decided that I'm going to frog it, and I'm going to make the Lorette sweater, which was my original plan. And the only reason that I switched to the Tolsta tee with that lace yoke of the Lorette was because I wanted to get a lot of it done so I could show it off while her yarn was available as a pre-order for a week in February. And I really should have just said to myself, it's okay if I don't get a lot done to show off. I should just stick with what I had planned. And I'm really looking forward to casting on the Lorette. So that's something that I do want to redo, possibly in 2026. So there'll be some redos happening in 2026. But this is my redo of the Tolsta tee. And I think it's going to be a really versatile piece, especially for my work wardrobe, because I think this is going to be a great layering piece with like some nice skirts or with work pants. I think it's going to look really snazzy. It's such a beautiful blue. It looks gorgeous against the red that I'm wearing. So I think like the red and blue would look beautiful together. But this is such a great color for me and my skin tone. And it's definitely one of my favorite shades of blue. I like to call it the blue heart emoji color because it really is that like pure blue. So I definitely want to work on this some more. By the next time I podcast, I'm in a trend of doing a podcast every month. By the next podcast, which will be sometime in September, I will have to have the Firth Sweater done. So hopefully I will have finished the Firth Sweater and have made some progress on the Tolsta tee so that I can show you some progress on both, because I really want to get this one going. And I'm ready to do raglan shaping. I just want to print off the pattern and write them all down so that I'm really clear about what I need to do and I can just check off as I go so that I can make sure I get the right numbers and everything. And then it also feels very easy to accomplish if you're just checking something off every row or two. So that's my plan to do next. So after I finish my Firth Sweater, I'm going to come back to this Tolsta tee. And considering how quickly my first version went, I think this one will go by pretty quickly as well. And I think I'm really going to love the final result. I'm going to make a little bit of a modification now that I've already made it once. I'm going to make the short sleeves longer because I found on my Lorette version, they were just too short under the arm, kind of similar to this top that I'm wearing now. It's just a cap sleeve. I think I want longer short sleeves for this, not quite to elbow, but maybe about like halfway down my arm, just to have more coverage, just so that when I lift my arms, it doesn't like lift the whole body. There's a bit of a extra bit of fabric there. So that is my, hopefully will be more visibly a Tolsta tee in the next podcast episode. Now we come to some stash spotlight yarns, and I am going to show a couple because they're all related to some yarn that I recently purchased. I don't call this section acquisitions because I often just show off yarn that's already in my stash, but I happen today to be showing off yarns that are in my stash because they relate to a yarn that I purchased. So the yarn that I recently purchased was from my friend Catherine of Création Miss Couture Yarns. This is from her Care Bears collection, and this one is called Kind to All. Now, I don't actually have much of a connection with Care Bears. When I was younger, I think I watched one really creepy Care Bears video that was about a boy that was a very rude and mean boy, and he was kind of like taught a lesson. And honestly, it was a little scary and quite scarring for a young child, for me as a young child watching that. And honestly, I don't have good memories of watching the Care Bears. I'm a little too young for the original Care Bears show because I was born in 1990. So I was more of like a Barney kid. I wasn't so much a Care Bears kid. So I don't actually have good memories of the Care Bears because my only memory of watching them is that movie. Now, I think I had a Care Bears doll as a kid, but like I don't even remember which one it was. But I did love the colors of this yarn and the whole collection. The whole collection was stunning. They were all like these beautiful neon pastels, which you know is my vibe. But this one really spoke to me, and I'm going to be making the, oh gosh, what's the, I think it's the Afterglow dress? That might be totally wrong. It's the one that's in the Pom Pom magazine that's all like pastel colors. Allie of Allie Makes Everything has made this, and I'm blanking on the name of it right now. She did her version. I think she has 3/4 length sleeves, and she just did hers as a top. But I really want to make mine the dress version, but not the long dress with short sleeves. I saw a version on Ravelry where someone had done long balloon sleeves and a mini length. So it looked very 60s, and I loved that look. So that's kind of the style that I want to go with, So that's kind of the style that I want to go with. And I have a feeling I'll have the perfect amount of yarn for that because I bought the amount of yarn needed for the long version. So I'm pretty sure that I'll have the perfect amount to lengthen the sleeves down to full length and shorten the skirt up to mini length. And I'm going to do that, and I think it's going to be a really great piece to wear like over tights and stuff, especially in the wintertime. But I'm going to do something that Allie of Allie Makes Everything also did, and I want to make either a tank top or like a slip dress or something to go underneath. And I have two options to show you. The first one is Groovy Kind of Love from the Scranton Stitcher. This is one of my favorite yarn colors ever. It's just so electrically purple, and it's got all these beautiful warm pinky tones. I just love it. It's showing up a little brighter than it should be because I have so much light coming in right now, but I think it goes so nicely with the Care Bear yarn, the Kind to All. So I think it would look really cool having either a tank top or a slip dress underneath using this yarn. And I think if I was to do a slip dress, I would use this yarn because I have enough of it. I have 5 skeins of this. So even if I held it double, I'm sure I could get a short little mini dress, like a form-fitted one to go under the very breezy, very flowy mohair dress over top. But I have a rogue choice. Now, this yarn I was planning to use for like a vest because it's so thick and bulky, and that's probably what I'm going to use it with. But I just had to show you how close in color it is to the Care Bear yarn, which is why my brain thought, at least for a split second, oh, what about that one? And that's this yarn. This is the Wandering Flock in the color Moonstone. And this yarn was very kindly gifted to me by my friend Cassandra of Fiber and Leaves on Instagram. She gifted me the chunky souffle that she knit with this yarn, as well as all of her leftover yarn, because she knew how much I loved this color. And I even did like a little swatch to see like what kind of gauge that I would get. Of course, I've already started like ripping out the swatch. But I thought, like, it's so pretty. And I did find a pattern, a bulky weight pattern that is a sweater, but I would love to make it as a vest using this yarn because I only have enough to possibly make a vest. I saw somebody do a version of it as a vest, and of course I'm not even able to remember that pattern name. I'm doing terribly today with remembering things. I should have looked this stuff up before I recorded, but I was just so eager to take advantage of the beautiful weather and to be outside because we're getting close to noon, and I really want to get back inside before then because this is hot weather for me. I don't do well with hot weather. I didn't check anything before I podcasted. I just went headfirst into podcasting. But that was sort of like a secondary idea that I had, and I do only have enough that I could do a tank top with this. But the more I think about it, the more I think I'm going to be toasty in that mohair yarn. Do I really want a bulky merino tank top underneath? And would I actually wear that in any other fashion? Probably not. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to my guns and make the vest idea that I had with this yarn and use the Groovy Kind of Love to do a slip dress. Now I'll probably follow the Pillars tank by Claire Jackson of Perfectly Knotted. I previously made that as a tank top and I absolutely loved it. It is DK weight, so I would have to hold my yarn double. But I think I could make a really great tank dress using this yarn. And I think it would look beautiful under the flowy mohair of the Kind to All. So that's my plan, I think. But my plans change all the time. I'm constantly being inspired by different things, and I have lots of ideas all the time. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. And before I wrap things up, I just have a couple book reviews to share with you. I'm technically reviewing 3 books, but they're all part of the same series, and I think it's fine to talk about all of them together. I have started reading the Rebel Blue romance series by Lila Sage. And I don't have any of the books with me because I borrowed them all from the library. I read the first one as a physical book. I read the second one as an audiobook. And then I skipped to the 4th one and read that as a physical book because it was ready from the library first. But the 3rd one is waiting for me at the library. I'm just not able to pick it up today. I'll pick it up tomorrow because I'm at home today. And I absolutely love this series. I will say I didn't like the first one all that much. It was just what I needed at the time because I've been reading a lot of nonfiction this year, and it was really helpful to break out of that and find something that I wanted to read because I just kept picking up books and putting them down in June and a little bit into July. So I happily picked up this fun cowboy romance, and I've never read a cowboy romance before, so I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. I don't know if I would like every cowboy romance, but I loved these ones. They were cute, they were campy, they had amazing characters, they had some really great themes. At least in the first 2 books, there were characters in each of them that had some form of mental health issue that they were working with. There's also the overarching theme of found family because there's this wonderful family. There's also what I would think is the best father figure I have ever read in romance fiction for sure in Amos Ryder, the father of the Ryder family that is present in all of these books. They are the ones that own Rebel Blue Ranch, which is the setting of these books. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful man. I love him so much. In the fourth book, which is my favorite so far, I think I just love the characters the most. In that book, he has this wonderful line that I am going to keep in my head forever. His line was, "There's a reason they make rearview mirrors small and windshields big." Love that. It's so perfect. And it's just such a wonderful series. I really just disappeared into it. The second one, I listened to it, I think it wasn't last Monday, it must have been the Monday before, but I was home by myself because my husband went off to do something with his friends or something, and I stayed home and I was sewing, and I listened to the whole book while making my skirt that I showed off earlier. So I definitely was really into that book, and I loved those characters. So in the first book, the trope is brother's best friend, and it's kind of like romance they have to hide type thing. And that just didn't speak to me all that much. And like the characters were fine and all, but like I didn't love them as much as I loved the characters in the later books. The second book was girl who has been hurt before is charmed by cowboy who is absolutely sweet to her and is just a pure gentleman. Love that trope. That was beautiful. But the last one was high school sweethearts getting a second chance at romance together. And that was just so sweet. And like, it was especially sweet because there were chapters that were looking back at their high school days when they were in love for the first time, and then talked a bit about how they broke up the first time. And it was just such a genuinely beautiful couple and beautiful love story. And it made me cry. I cried in the fourth book. Like I didn't cry in the first two, but I definitely cried in the fourth one. And like it was just so beautiful, and I loved them. I also thought the spice was a great level. I liked it best in the fourth book. I liked the spice scenes the most in that one. But it just depends on what you like. So I loved those books so much, and I will be reading the third one. It'll be a little out of order, but come on, they're romance books. You know exactly what happens by the end of them. The couple gets together. So it was just beautiful. And like, it would have been nice to read the fourth one last because it does kind of sum up the whole series with an epilogue at the end. So it would have been especially poignant to read that after reading all of the previous books, but that just didn't happen for me because of when they were available at the library. But I loved these books, and I'm going to read more. Hopefully, I'm going to read more like them in the future. So thank you so much for joining me for this alfresco podcast episode. And I won't know until I edit this what the noise level was like, but I really hope it was okay. I'm starting to have to squint a lot because it is quite bright. And I think I'm ready to go in because it's now starting to get really hot out. But I really appreciate you sticking with me all the way till the end. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. It really means a lot to me. While you're here, it would help my channel if you could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think of my whips that I'm working on. Have you read the Rebel Blue Ranch series? Let's have a great conversation in the comments. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I have 2 affiliate links below. You can check them out in the description box. And I also have a link to my Ravelry wish list. If you would like to give me a little tip, you could buy me a pattern off of my wish list. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you all take care and happy knitting!